He'd like to see Kulu in a false nine. Yeah, look, that's another conversation. Well, we were going to talk about where is Decky's best position, but we'll save that one for show 2.
Yes, because I do want to talk on that.
Well, we can talk about it now if you want. Oh, actually, you know what? Maybe we can talk about it we can include it in this next topic, which is, let me just edit this and see if I get it right this time. Versatility versus specificity. Essentially, it is the benefits of having players that are monsters in one position, like a Romero or a Van der Ven, or maybe not Van der Ven. Maybe is maybe someone who's versatile enough to go and play in the left back role. You know, we have players like Lo Celso that we're not sure really where his best position is. Decky, we're not sure. Is it? And this is the question, Dave. Again, I'll let you start. Is it? Well, how important is it to have a mixture of specific players versus versatile players? Do we have the right balance? Are we looking for more players that can fit into several different positions, or should we now be focusing on getting experts that do one job for this system absolutely perfectly well? And we're going to start. Right, let me just double check it's working. Go.
Do you know what on this one, Sean? I'm actually of the belief if you sign the right quality players, I think they automatically can become versatile. They can play in many.
It's messed up again.
No,
what's going on? These bloody things. Go.
Yeah, so look, like I said, I'm of the belief, you know, if you sign a quality player of the right quality, he can play in multiple different positions. I argue that when there was sort of concerns about Pedro Porro, could he play right wing back to right back and stuff like that? I've always said if you sign the right quality player, they can adapt. But look, the benefits of versatility is that you just create stronger strength in depth. You create more competition for places, I guess, and that can only ever be a good thing for the squad and for that 11, so that they can never go out there and rest on their laurels or feel settled, because they constantly have people chomping at the bit for their place. However, I do think there's certain positions on the pitch where you do need specificity. I think goalkeeper is one. You know, I think centre back is another. And I also believe striker is another. I think there's certain areas where you want your specificities, but I think the rest of the pitch, you know, if you sign a good midfielder, I'd argue he can play a 6 or an 8, you know, or an 8 or a 10. If you sign a good winger, they should be able to play left and right. And if you sign a good fullback, they should be able to fill in on the opposite side if you need them to. So, look, when it comes to that, like I said, I think specificity in certain positions, then in other positions, if you sign the right quality player, he can double up on positions. So for me, I don't really have a preference, just as long as the quality is right, the mindset is right, that'll replicate itself on the pitch eventually.
Yeah, look, I personally agree. I think obviously you need a goalkeeper. No, but again, a specific goalkeeper versus a versatile goalkeeper. We're not saying a goalkeeper that can also come out and score, you know, a header in the 95th minute, but one that can, you know, a specific goalkeeper for a specific system. Our system requires, you know, not so much of. I mean, obviously, you always need to be a great shot stopper, but you know, you need a goalkeeper that's got pace, that can come out and do the sweeper keeper role, and that can pass the ball with his legs, and that is, you know, as big of a deal as a shot stopping is. And so you'd rather prioritize a player if you were looking for a replacement for Vicario or someone else in the future who's coming in to play backup. You'd be looking for a player who might not necessarily be as good at shot stopping as another candidate, but if that particular player has the ability to get out and distribute the ball, then you take that one over the guy who's a fantastic shot stopper, but you know is like a statue. For me, I think you look through our squad and I think you see versatility absolutely everywhere. I'm convinced that Pedro Porro, for example, who I agree with what you were saying earlier, Dave. I do think he's the best right back in the Premier League at the moment, in terms of on form. I think that he is a mentality monster. He's got the specific mentality you're looking for, which is someone who's not afraid to learn new things, who, you know, learns from his mistakes and goes for it. But in terms of his abilities on the pitch, I don't just think he's a right back or a potential right winger. I think this guy, if needs must, if we were in a real predicament and we had a horrible crisis, I think he could easily play in the 8 role as well. I think he's that capable on the ball. He's that technical. He's got that much grit and determination. I think Destiny Udogie probably has enough about him to play as a left winger. I think he could also, you know, be sort of shoehorned into other positions. And I think that we have, I think you look through the pitch. I think obviously we're talking about Decky. I'm not sure. I'm going to come back to you in a second what his best position is. Pape Sarr. I'm worried a little bit that against Everton, Some people are asking for him to be placed in the 6 and for us to go a little bit. I think it was George last night, or was it Deji, who said, he wanted us to play Sarr in the 6, Lo Celso in the 8, and then Decky in the 10 because of the fear of the low block that Everton are going to come up against. I think that sometimes maybe having too much versatility, too much uncertainty around where your best player is allows too much experimentation. I think we've got enough players now that are versatile. I want to see us get the players we need to get in now need to be monsters in what they do. I need a monster number 9 who's brilliant at doing just the things that number 9s do, which is goal scoring, heading, shooting with both feet, positional awareness. I don't necessarily want a number 9 who can also play as a winger. I want a number 9 that's a monster of that. Obviously, we need another centre back that ideally can play on the left or the right. But I'd much rather go for higher quality in one position than a lower quality that can play on the left or the right. I need a specific, really highly talented number 9. I think we've got enough versatility throughout the squad.
No, 100%. But also, we have to, like I said, certain positions, I think you do have to sign that player for that specific position. But I think in years gone by at Tottenham, when you look at the likes of Ndombele, for instance, the system at Lyon suited him. But at Tottenham, no matter what system we play, doesn't. You look at Lo Celso, I'll also argue another one where the way we play and just the rigors of the Premier League doesn't suit him. And I think in years gone by, we've got caught up with signing specific players for specific systems. But I've always made the argument, if you're a good player, you'll adapt to any manager's system to play week in, week out. When you're talking about the greats of the Premier League, Gerrard, right back, centre mid, Cam, defensive mid, multiple systems, managers, etc. over the years, but still puts in great performances. And then for me, you look at likes of a system player, Calvin Phillips, good in the system for Leeds and the way it was played, but I've gone to Man City and can't make that step up because of, I presume personally, the technical quality of the player and stuff like that. So for me, if you just sign the right player with the right mentality and the right sort of attributes, well, not attributes, but of genuine sort of technical ability, they can play anywhere, and that allows you with actually more fluidity within your system, where you can get players to make different sort of runs within your systems. That actually opens up the possibilities. Whereas if you sign players specific for specific roles, if we ever lose this manager, the next manager come in, they probably won't be able to use them, and that's been our biggest problem.
That's a great point.
Over the last few years. So for me, just sign the right caliber player. That opens up versatility, opens up more options for you on the pitch, more dynamism, better ways of playing and stuff like that. So that's where I'm at with that, Shawnee.
You know what, mate? I think that's an absolutely fantastic point about the square pegs for round holes argument. Completely forgot to mention it. I'm really glad you brought it up. I think a lot of us, myself included, I think most people, if they're honest, got Porro completely wrong. I think at the start of the season, we'd signed a guy that was for a right wing back role, and we were like, well, the guy can't defend. And people were saying, no, he's more of a right winger. He's more of a forward. They were really shoehorning him into that role because they were convinced he couldn't defend either. And we got away with one there because we signed the right caliber of player that was capable of adapting. So I take your point. But, if Tottenham are to continue this kind of flipping from feast to famine or from pillar to post, like we have done over the last 5-6 years with managerial, mistakes, that not only change their philosophy from defensive to attacking, from pragmatic to progressive, but also from a back 3 to a back 4, from a front 3 to a front 2, whatever. If we're going to keep doing that, you're always going to end up, unless you, to your point, sign the right caliber of player that can adapt. And I think that adaptability comes down more to mentality than necessarily physicality, right? Like most of these players are good enough. Like, defenders can still strike a ball towards a goal. They can still take a penalty on the training ground. But it comes down to the confidence and the mindset of these players. And if you sign those players that are mentality monsters, then they shouldn't fear having to adapt and take on new positions when needs must. Just quickly in the last 2.5 minutes, mate, unless you've got something else to add, I do want to get your thoughts on Decky, because I think he is the player right now that everyone is not really, or there's lots of conversations around. Is he better on the right? Is he better in the 10? What do we do when Maddison comes back? A lot of people want to see him play on the left-hand side, because if he's so comfortable with his left foot, then why not see what he can do driving to the byline with his most comfortable foot? And some people are even saying, I think someone mentioned it before, false 9. Could he play as a striker? The guy's got everything, and he's got an engine on him that can go for 95, 100 minutes every game. What's your stance on Decky?
Look, I think because of the sort of body shape that he is, right, he doesn't rely on blistering pace. He just relies on his body strength, and he uses that to world-class ability, and that will always buy him a bit of time on the ball, similar to what Harry Kane used to do. When you've got a player like that, right, he has to adapt his game. So he has to be technically better than everybody else. His mind has to work quicker than everybody else compared to a guy with pace, because he can use that pace to get him out of a lot of trouble, whereas Kulu can't do that. So for me, that's why you see Kulu being able to adapt to multiple positions because of that reason. When he grew up, he had people bursting by him with pace, probably many people telling him, unless you get quicker, you ain't going to make it, you know? But somehow he still managed to come through despite all the odds, despite the game changing, preferring faster players and stuff like that. And when it comes to Kulu, you see, and this is always my point, when we spoke about certain players in the past, and there's been many different players, oh, but he doesn't play this position, he plays this position. Is that harsh? And I've always said, no, it's not harsh, because a good player can play in multiple positions, you know, or at least get by. With Kulu, brilliant in the middle, brilliant on the right. We haven't seen him on the left, I'd argue. He could be like what Sonny could be on the left, where he drives the fullback backwards into the box, creates problems. I actually prefer, I really want to see him down the middle as a striker. This is something I've said time and time again. I think he can play there. And all he has to do is just look at Harry Kane, how he's played there for years, and he'd pick up a lot. I think definitely he could play there, Shawnee.
Do you think we'll ever see him in the 9?
Personally, no. Not under Postecoglou, I don't think so. I think Postecoglou relies on him too much in terms of getting back, helping out defensively, but also getting on the ball and driving us up the pitch at times. I think many managers will, so I don't think we'll ever see him in the 9, no.
No. But no, I don't disagree. I think that he is someone who is getting better and better. He's still so young. He's got so much time on his side because he looks like a physical specimen. You know, he's a big, he looks like a soldier. You know, he can... people can forget that he's only 23 years old. But yeah, the guy doesn't rely on his pace. Harry Kane didn't rely on his pace. If we sign Santiago Jimenez, you won't be seeing him, doing lung busting, sort of 100-meter sprints in 10 seconds or whatever. You just won't see it. But some players have got the ability to be deceptively quick with the way that they position themselves and get themselves out of trouble. So yeah, mate, good conversation. Yeah, versatility versus specificity, guys. Do we have the right balance? Let us know in the comments. I think we got a couple of super chats, Dave.